Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, we're going to talk about love. Kim Sorrelle is back, and we're going to talk about love and advice and how unsolicited advice should stay in the mouth of the advisor. It's a fun and amazing conversation that could change your life about your loved ones, your kids, everybody you care about. So please subscribe and join us and share. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life experiences and wisdom of things that we've done in our own lives in finding better. And, sometimes the best way to success is to copy it, right? And so today, we have one of my favorite people back with us. Her name is Kim Sorrelle, and she is the author of this book, Love Is. And you could see the book in her background. Kim, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again.
John, you are one of my favorite people. And so it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is so amazing. So, folks, I have Kim with me every month. And in her book, Love Is, it talks about, we've all heard love is patient, love is kind. There's 14 of them, patience, kind, and 12 more. And it is so powerful that we are going over all 14 of them once a month or one a month. And so today we're talking about love does not dishonor others. Now, what does that mean? Love does not dishonor others. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Kim's journey and her experience in discovering, because here's the thing, there's 14 of them. And she decided to spend 1 month of her life dedicated and focused on learning each one of the 14 for 14 months. And so this time we're talking about love does not dishonor others. And amazing, amazing. And it's especially relevant in the world that we live in today with social media, with all the stresses, everything, all the politics, everything that we're dealing with. And so it's amazing. So Kim, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your experiences in this area. Um, I hand the mic to you. Go for it. What does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean love does not dishonor others? And
Well, if you
and what
think
are what
about
are
it,
some
yeah,
some examples that we can learn from in the world today?
sure. Every month, John, it was such a struggle for me. And it would take me the entire month to really figure out what it meant. And this was no different. Love does not dishonor others. Because I thought it was sort of a no-brainer. Well, of
Hmm.
course you don't dishonor others. If you love them and we should love everybody, then you wouldn't dishonor them. But then really what does that mean exactly? And how does it look to not dishonor? Realizing too, the opposite of that would be to honor that
Right.
love
Right.
does honor because
Right.
it doesn't dishonor, right?
Right.
And so during my month of figuring it out, what I figured out about love that doesn't dishonor takes people for who they are, loves people where they're at for who they are without trying to fix them, without being critical, right? It can be so easy to try to fix people but without being critical about the choices they make and realize it's their choices and the way they live because they get to pick the way they live.
Right.
And I want the freedom to pick how I live. So to do that, I need to give other people the freedom to choose how they live. And I need to honor that it's their choice. And so in dishonoring, I got to admit, I was really good. I was pretty darn good at dishonoring others. I figured out one of the biggest things with dishonoring others is giving unsolicited advice. And when you give unsolicited advice, because again, man, I was the queen of unsolicited advice. I could look at something, I could look at an issue, somebody's issue, and I could know right away, man, if they just changed this, their life would be so much happier, things would be so much better. And I was willing to share. I was happy to share my wisdom, my grand wisdom, and then realize that that is so dishonoring because what I'm saying in that is that I know better. And what I'm
Right.
saying in that is I am better, that I'm smarter, I'm wiser, I'm greater, I'm a step ahead. I'm whatever it is I am, that I have this great advice that they haven't even asked for, but I'm willing to give. And that's not love. Love does not do that. It's sort of this weird fine line between when is it dishonoring and when is it wise to give advice. And quite often the line is, if you're not asked, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, yeah. I actually wrote that down. You wrote down, and I'm quoting, unless requested, advice needs to stay in the mouth of the advisor.
Right.
And I mean, how we're all giving unsolicited advice, especially parents,
Mm,
especially parents. And one of the things that and just last night, I found myself dishonoring my son. And I didn't realize I was doing that until I realized I was doing that from what you wrote in your book. And I was just giving him advice. I was just telling him, you need to do this, you need to do that. And he's like, dude, seriously? Right? I didn't ask for it. And the other thing that you say is that advice is an opinion,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And
Right.
and my listeners have heard me say this over and over and over again. That one of my good buddies came up to me and he said, John, we're having a heated argument. And he said, John, I could care less about your opinion. And I said, seriously, that's kind of rude. He goes, no, listen, I could care less about your opinion, but I'll listen to your experiences all day long.
Mm.
And so, but I will also say that unsolicited experiences is also not good, right? It's better than
Right.
advice, or it's better than an opinion, but um, don't give it unless you're asked for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're saying, John, because it's so true. We think that our opinion is the right opinion. That's why we have it. But when you can be open to realize that your opinion's not the only one, and there's so many sayings about opinions, right? Like opinions are like things, everybody has one,
Yeah,
nobody
third
should
dime a
use it,
dozen. Yeah.
kind of thing, whatever. To me, it's like a penny. You got tons of them, but they're pretty worthless. Like they're not, pennies aren't worth
A
much.
penny for your thoughts, right?
Yeah, penny for your thought. Exactly,
A penny
exactly.
for your thoughts, if asked, are good, but if not asked, not requested, yeah,
Yeah, keep the penny in your pocket or throw it into a wishing well or do something else with that penny.
I love
But
it.
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, especially now, especially here, we're in this time where we're polarized in our nation. There's polarization in the world. People have opinions. They think that they're the only opinion, that their opinion is the one, the most valid. And it's great to believe in what you believe in. That's awesome. When it gets bad, when love gets taken away, is when you believe your opinion that you believe in so strongly needs to be everybody else's too.
Yep. Yep. And it's hard. It's really hard. You talk about the environment that we're living in today. I mean, we are a divided country. And which is one of the reasons why you and I are doing this podcast, and the things that you're doing is because our political leadership isn't going to bring us together, right? And and you just look at some people, and on both sides, right? Um,
Mhm.
they're just so entrenched. And I've seen friendships end. I've seen, family relationships get not destroyed, but really harmed, right? Where people don't want to talk to each other. And it's like, you know, everybody has their own views based on the experiences they've lived in their life. And, it's we need to bring people back, and we need to figure out, how do we bring a little more love back into the world. And this lesson that you're teaching us of love does not dishonor others. And you started, and when we first started off, you were talking about the opposite of dishonoring is to honor, right? And
Mhm.
when you said that, my mind instantly went to, when's the last time I consciously honored somebody? I consciously honored somebody. I feel like, I live by the golden rule of, treat others as you want to be treated. So in that sense, Yes, I feel like from I am honoring others, and if I'm treating them well, and respecting them and loving them. Um, but when's the last time I did that consciously? You know what I mean? Where I said,
Hmm.
I'm gonna honor my son today. I don't know if I've ever consciously done that, but how cool would that be, right? If,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna do it. I personally am gonna do that. I'm gonna try to make that part of what I do every day, and consciously, okay, what can I do to honor this person? Um, because we need it. We need it. We need to get back to um, civility, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that, John. I love the idea of being so conscious of it and really thinking about it and doing it because it's so true. And I think with family, it can be even harder, right? Like you can go out with a friend and maybe you're not going to argue politics or well, whatever it happens to be. But I find the same thing with my kids. It's like if they were just a friend and they were doing the things they're doing and making the choices they are, I'd go, that's fine. They're their choices. That's great. But when it's our kids, we're like, oh, we want the best for them and we know better and whatever. And the reality is our kids grow up and they're adults
Yeah,
and they're not us. They're not
yeah,
us. And really our only job all the way through, our only job is to love, and if we're in conflict, I have it more with my daughter than my sons. I have four sons, one daughter, and I swear my daughter was more work than my four sons combined. But I love her to death, of course. But even as this 40-year-old woman, I look and go, God, if man, if you just thought of this, or if you tried that, or if you did it this way, it'd be so much easier. And have gotten away from that as much as I possibly can. I still have those thoughts sometimes, but I try not hard not to because I look at her, I see her with friends and other family. They adore her. They
right,
adore her for
right.
exactly who she is. Nobody's trying to change her. I'm the only one that sees these things that I think, oh, her life would be easier if she did this or that, right? But they aren't. They're just her friend, and
Yeah,
and they love her, and she's a wonderful friend, and she's a wonderful person. And so I think even for my own sanity, not just for hers, but just for my own well-being and my own really embracing love, I need to just love. Just put the other stuff aside and just love. And so I love what you're saying about being really conscious of that and
yeah.
saying that's what I'm going to do.
And especially with your kids, as you're saying, right? Because
Mhm.
there's different kinds of love. There's the friend love, and there's the kid love, and there's a parent love. And it is so easy as a parent because, especially, I'm a guy, right? And my belief system is that my job is to keep my family safe. My job is to help my kids grow up to be the people that they can be. Um, and gosh darn it, what do you mean you don't agree with me? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I know better. What do you mean you're not listening? Are you listening to me? We would never do that with our friends. We
Mhm.
would never do that with our friends. But it's because we love them so much that I do that. And but my son is 34 years old. He's been with Amazon for 13 years. He's a fully grown man, and I just need to let go of that part, you know? And I think as a parent, and I realized this recently, as a dad, especially as a dad, my job is not to be their friend. In my view, my job is not to be my children's friend. My job is to show them the way, is to get them to do the things they don't want to do, to learn the lessons that they need to learn, right? To push them, to encourage them, to, uh, yeah, make sure that they grow up with. I don't want to say my values, but what I believe to be good values. right? Of
Mhm.
responsibility and love and all those different kinds of things. And as they grow up, they learn different lessons, but there comes a point in time when you just got to let go, you know?
Mhm.
And then I can be more, like my son, where he is right now. I can be his friend. I can be his friend. I could still be his dad, but I don't need to be that dad, play that dad role so much anymore. It's really hard. It's really hard because there's different kinds of love. And so, that idea of consciously different people, right? When I consciously decide to honor my son or daughter, I know I'm going to learn what that means. I'm going to
Mhm.
learn that honoring them is very different than honoring my best friend or honoring other people who are in my life. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
honoring my wife. It's just it's wonderful. And I've been
Yeah.
thinking about this stuff because of this chapter in your book.
It's interesting to me too, because as a parent, as we're talking about being a parent as
Mhm.
opposed to a friend or whatever, I think so often too, you have to sort of analyze your motives, which can be super intense and super hurtful in a way. But it's like you want your kids to represent you. This is my offspring. They've got one dad, they got one mom, right? We're it for them. And so we feel like they reflect us. And so we want to make sure they're the best reflection of us. We want to make sure that they're not messing up, that they don't all of a sudden turn a different way, or, that we work so hard. I'm this type A crazy personality, right? Coming from these type A personalities and believe in, man, you got to work hard, and you got to do the things and everything you can, and you got to volunteer as much as you can, do everything that you can. And then you have a son, one of my sons, for instance, who is a 40-hour a week guy, man, and he's great. I mean, it's great. He's got this fabulous, he works for NASA, for goodness sake. He's got this incredible job, but they're not really asked to put any overtime in. Overtime to me was just never overtime. It was just, you just
It's
work.
what you
I mean,
did. Yep.
it's
Yep.
what you
Yep.
did. But his values in so many things are different than mine. Money is not like when I was his age, it was about growing the business more and more and more, getting bigger, bigger, bigger for some good motivation, right? I mean, so I could employ more people, so I could give more to the world, so I could do some things, but also to make more money, for the bigger house, the better car, the better
Right.
vacation, whatever it was. He doesn't think like that at all. His thing is, from the time he was 20 years old, his goal was to have enough money to graduate or to retire when he was 45 years old. And I'm like, retire? What do you mean retire? You work. That's part of what you do is you work. And so I had to wrap my mind around that. But he's the greatest guy. And it's not that the way he thinks is better or worse. Actually, to be honest with you, it's probably better than the way I think, but it's different than the way I think.
Yep.
And so often I think we want our kids to think the way we do and respond to things the way we would and look at the world the way through our eyes. And the reality is that is so dishonoring. I mean, yes, we get to be in charge of this kid when they're little. Like we get to have them in our lives. We get to be their parent. It's a privilege to be their parent. But then it's so honoring and loving to let them be the person that they're created to be. Let them be who they believe they should be, not who we believe they should be. And it's not the easiest thing, but that's love.
It is not the easiest thing, and especially because of what you said a little bit earlier, that we look at them as a representative of us. They are not a representative of us, right? I mean,
Right.
but in our head, we're like, well, that we get embarrassed, right? I mean, we make it a social thing that, when if our kid becomes quarterback, yeah. If our kid flunks a class, what are you doing? You know, and it's the a cultural thing, but it's especially in the Asian cultures, right? Where parents look at their children as somebody that needs to make them look good.
Mm.
And if they don't, then it just love is really complicated. Yeah. It's amazing how complicated it is. Let's talk just for a minute a little bit about we've been talking about our family and which is huge. That's where it all starts. But how can we what can we do given the division that we have and the divisiveness? What can we do as individuals a little bit better?
I think one of the things is if you can recognize that your opinion is yours, that it's yours, doesn't mean it's everybody else's. I look at it, John, and I've got friends who, with the election coming up, I've got friends who are Christians. They love Jesus with their whole heart, and they are Democrats, and they don't know how someone can be a Christian and be a Republican. I've got friends who love Jesus with their whole heart and are Republicans, and they don't understand how someone can be a Christian and be a Democrat. People believe, right? I mean, it's like whatever
Goes both
you
ways.
believe, right? And you believe it because of things you've heard, what you read, your upbringing, all the days that have led you to today, bring you to this realization that this is what you believe. But if you stick in this belief like glue, like you've got gorilla glue surrounding you, and you are surrounded by this belief, and there is no room to let anything else in, man, it's awful hard to love people
Yeah.
whose opinion might be different than yours.
Yeah.
Whereas instead, if you wear it as a loose blanket and you go, yeah, this is what I believe, this is what I believe. But man, sometimes you got to let the blanket off a little bit and let something else come in. Listen to what other people have to say. It's so interesting to me that when you hear why people believe what they believe, it can really change things. Because of course, you were talking earlier about the Asian culture and how the Asian culture looks at how kids are supposed to be a represent, whatever representative view of you, right? Like a reflection of you. And maybe other cultures are not that same way, or to the extent the Asian culture is. Well, your culture has something to do with why that blanket is so tight around, right? I mean, so cultures come into play, your upbringing, where you grow up, what your job is, like who your friends are, everything influences your beliefs, everything influences all of that stuff. And if we were to take a step back and go, guy, and the way I feel right now, I don't agree with what my friend is saying, but why does my friend believe that way?
You,
And if you can open up and have that conversation to the why, not just the what,
that is
it's a whole
incredible.
different conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right because it Sinek had that book Start with Why. And it becomes a totally different conversation, like you said. We all talk about the what, and we all, in whatever it is we're thinking about. But why? Why is hugely important. Um, I also thought about something just now where you said your opinion is yours. And just to take that a step further, so keep it. Be selfish with it. It's your opinion. Stick it in your pocket and keep it.
Right.
If then
Right.
if someone asks you, "Hey, can I borrow a buck?" Then take it out of your pocket and give them your opinion. But in the meantime, yeah, keep it honor it yourself and keep it in your pocket. Don't bring it out unless someone asks you to. Um, yeah, it's having the discussion on why. I think it really does. It really does. In any discussion. And I think that, that is something that that alone, if we can take everything that we do, I mean, name me something where asking why wouldn't be appropriate. I mean, I'm sure there are, but in the spirit of wanting to understand people, Not just understanding the what of what they believe, but why they believe what they believe. Um, you just got my mind spinning again. It's really cool. Let's see if
Yeah.
we, and if we can get just one or two people to start doing that, I mean, great, great. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
and
that's
if you think
amazing.
about it on the receiving end too. So somebody asking you why you believe what you believe, I mean, you immediately feel respected because somebody actually wants to know why you believe what you believe, right? You
That's right.
read that, which is honoring.
It is. And and a lot of times, I just think about the times that I've been asked, I want to talk about it, right?
Right.
Um, wow. Why? That's cool. That's cool. We've talked about a lot of things, Kim. Again, this has been amazing. And and again, it's one of these things where I think about it, then I'll think about it again, then I'll think about it again. And every time I think about it, I come up with something a little bit different. And it is an amazing part of the journey. And of course, I'll think of things that I've done in the past, like with my kids, that it's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard. It's hard to face that imperfection that we all have. But so we change things and we move forward and
Mhm.
make it better.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you've given a lot of us. You've given yeah, you've given us a lot to think about, Kim. You got anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, just one thing that I think can be difficult to listen to this and then go, well, but how do I not give advice? Like, when is it okay to give advice? And of course, it's okay to give advice if somebody asks you for advice, but even then, be careful. Be careful. Like you got a friend and they've had a fight with their husband and they're so mad and they say, well, what would you do? And you go, I'd kick that son of a gun out. Like he's treating you terrible. Well, they're together the next day and then all of a sudden, you're the friend that said to kick them out. So you got to be careful, even when asked. But I think too, when you see somebody in a situation, realize it's their situation. And I had a situation with a woman one time that I was like, why doesn't she see? Why doesn't she see that this man is totally taking advantage of her? Why doesn't she see that she is just schnockered? Like this guy keeps asking for money, she keeps sending it. Why doesn't she see that this guy's just ripping her off? How is she so blind to this and whatever? And I had friends say to me, Kim, you got to tell her. You got to tell her she's getting ripped off. You got to let her know. And so I was like subtly trying to say, oh, well, I knew this friend once. I knew about this woman once that this happened to her, and kind of gave the same scenario, and she didn't see it. And I kept thinking, Lord, what do I do? What is my place really in this situation? And I realized it wasn't my place to say anything. And that was hard because you think, well, you don't want someone being taken advantage of. But even in a moment like that, it it wasn't my place to tell her because she wouldn't have received it.
Yeah.
All she would have heard was that I don't like her boyfriend. She wouldn't have looked at it and gone, "Oh wow, you're right. You're right. I'm being taken advantage of." She
Yeah.
wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that you have to realize is that when to give advice, when you're asked, and when is it honoring to give advice? When you're asked and you're giving it the right way.
So as you think back on that situation, because if folks listening haven't experienced something like that, where they see a friend that is just going down the wrong road, and they want to pull them back, was there anything you would have done differently in that situation?
You know, uh, it's it's a tough situation
Right.
because when you love people, you want the best for them
Right.
and you don't want to see them get hurt. But I think so often, John, our hurts are what make us stronger. And we can't avoid hurt in other people's lives. And so I don't know that I would have done anything differently. I um I think she just had to make the choices that she made and learn from it herself. I think that's part of being, this mom, this dad too. We don't want other people around us getting hurt, whether it's our kid or anybody else. We just
Right.
don't want to
Right.
see people get hurt. But people have to go through their own things, which
Wow.
is not unloving. It
Right.
is, you love them through it, right? Instead of unloving them because they're doing it, or uh, or ignoring them, or running away from them, but be there to help pick up the pieces to love them
Right.
through it.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a tough line to know when it's your place to really step in, and chances are good it's not your
Oh
place.
my
Your
gosh.
place is to love.
Earlier we talked about our role as a dad and as parents, um, letting our kids make the mistakes, letting them make the mistakes. And because, like you said, it's the toughest experiences of our lives where we learn the most from. And that's really hard to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so with that happy uplifting thought, folks, love does not dishonor others. And we've given you. I don't know where my head is right now. It's in a lot of different places as I'm thinking back on my life from this conversation. So with that, folks, again, Kim's book is Love Is, and she's going to be back again next month and the following month and the month after that, if she's so willing. To honor me and honor us. And you can find her book on Amazon. If you want to learn more about Kim, you can go to kimsorrelle.com, and that's SORRELLE.com. She's the only Kim Sorrelle out there. So again, Kim Sorrelle. Um, Kim, you're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much. And I love these conversations. Every month, I look forward to talking with you and learning more. And we're going to continue this journey together. So,
I love it. Yeah, I love being with you, John. I love your show. I love everything you do. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not so easy, some things to hear, right? But hopefully there are things that, I don't know, like every time I'm with you, I feel like you make me a better person. And that's the kind of friends you want.
well, the feeling is totally mutual. And I do have to say that as I was studying this part of your book, I did question this podcast, right? I did question this podcast. I'm like, am I actually dishonoring others by sharing our experiences and the things that we're doing, which is a question I never asked myself. It never even occurred to me. Of course, I'm not dishonoring anybody. We're just sharing. But again, like you said, advice is an opinion, and advice is, well, we're sharing experiences. So I'm justifying in my head that I'm not dishonoring people by doing that, because I mean, folks who are listening to us want to listen to us, right? And so
Right.
I
Right.
don't
I
I
think
don't.
sometimes, John, I think it's the verbiage too, right? Like if we're saying, you gotta, what you should do, what you have to do is way different than, what might work,
Yeah, or
what
here's
could
what
be
I've done.
helpful.
Yeah,
Right. Or here's what
here's
I've
what
done.
worked for me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I do try to do that. I do try to do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. You,
And
you do.
I think that's important. Kim,
Yeah.
thank you again. Thank you so much. I love you. God bless you. And can't wait to see you again next month. Next month is Halloween. Um, no, actually, by the time we get this out, it'll be closer to Thanksgiving. No, it'll
Oh.
be Halloween. Folks, because we're about 30 days out from when we record. But yeah, Christmas is coming. It's right around the corner already. All right. So with that, folks, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Share this, because you know what? It's up to us. It's up to all of us to bring a little bit more love into the world. So with that, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.